Hello and welcome to your level 1 follow along for various types of bracing, specifically for people with hypermobility. This is for hypermobility and for people with EDS. So if you are somebody who has a tendency to have some subluxing in your hips and you do any manual muscle techniques to reset your SI joint or anything else, you can feel free to do that before this video starts. That would be my recommendation, because we want to get everything nice and aligned and then get into strengthening. Your equipment that you're going to need is a block, a loop band that's small and relatively light. If you don't have a loop band, but you have one of those long resistance bands, you can use those, just knot them around your legs. And you'll need either a pillow or a towel or a blanket folded up like this. We're going to go ahead and start on our backs. We don't need any equipment to start with. So I will get this out of the way so you can continue to see me. We're going to start by lying on our backs. Legs are going to be bent. Not super close to our butt, but not super far away either. They're just going to be kind of in the middle. Hands can be wherever you feel comfortable. We're going to start by trying to brace our core. You might find that you have this big lift in your ribs and your low back doesn't feel that great, and this might be a little bit uncomfortable. If that's the case, you can take a towel or a blanket or a pillow and put it underneath your back like this. If this helps you, please use that. If you don't need that, we're just going to start lying on our backs. You're going to spread your hands wide and put them on your stomach. And we're going to start just trying to brace the front of our core. I want you to think about where your hips are as well as where your ribs are. That's why our hands are over our stomach like this. I want you to think about tucking your ribs down just a bit and tucking your tailbone under you just a bit and then releasing. And then same thing, we're going to tuck those ribs down, tuck your tailbone up and release. I don't want you to worry about, keep going with that. I don't want you to worry about bracing your muscles right now. I just want you to worry about finding that position. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to find a neutral, kind of like a stack between our ribs and our hips. It can be really easy to get all out of whack where our hips are going one way, our ribs are going the other way. So we're not trying to scoop and make this really dramatic, but we are trying to do a little tuck so that we can eventually start to brace into the front of our core. So now we're going to try that. You're going to try that little contraction in the front. Hip bones and ribs suck towards each other. Try and tense the muscles in the front of your belly. How you can feel that is you can actually press your hands into your stomach just a bit and see if those muscles get tighter. If they do, awesome. You figured out abdominal bracing. If you don't and you're like, what the heck is going on? That's okay. Just keep practicing this. We're going to just keep squeezing, holding, releasing, just like you've been doing. And if at any time you've had enough of this and you need to stop, please feel free to do that. You can always stop and wait, and then I will catch up to you eventually. Let's do about 5 more. Hopefully by this time you're starting to feel your muscles working a little bit more. But if you don't, no worries. Sometimes you need to visit this every now and again. Very nice. Go ahead and release that for a second. If you want to take some fidgets or shake your hands out, feel free. And then we're going to get into the opposite side of our trunk that we're going to be working on today. We're going to work on our butt muscles or our glutes. So keeping your legs bent like this, you're going to see if you can squeeze your butt and release, and squeeze your butt and release. Taking your time, squeeze, releasing. And if you're ever having a moment where you're getting frustrated because you just aren't connecting to it either at all or right now, that's okay. Sometimes our awareness will turn up and turn down, and that's not really a bad thing. It's just kind of the human experience. And the important part is that we keep coming back to practice, and we practice these movements instead of expecting them to be perfect. Similar to the other one, we're just going to do a few more, but you are welcome to stop at any time. As you're doing these, I want you to check in with your rib position. So if you have a tendency to flare your ribs or lift your ribs up and get really wide across the chest, I want you to think about tucking those ribs down a little bit as you squeeze. You might notice as you do that you do get a little bit of tension in the front of your body. If you do, that's awesome. If you're not there yet, that's okay. Let's do about 5 more. Very nice. Next thing we're going to do is build on this with our mini loop band. So go ahead and grab that. You're going to take your knees up to your chest and see if you can thread your feet through. And this is going to go just above your knees. If that's not comfortable for you, either getting your knees up or you don't have this band, you can take, again, a long band, loop it around you, tie it off in front. Key here is to use a light band. And you're going to take your feet back to the ground in about that same position. And then we're going to think about those two positions, those two things we're going to stack on each other. You're going to think, tuck your ribs down, tuck your tailbone a little bit to get that nice strong core. You're going to then think about your glutes or your butt squeezing. And this time you're going to think, squeeze your butt, move your knees apart just a little bit, and then release. And then squeeze your butt, move your knees apart, and release. And we're just going to keep going like that. You don't need to move your knees very much. I know it's kind of hard to see from this angle, but my knees are only separating probably around, I don't know, no more than 4 or 5 inches. A pretty small movement. Go ahead and check in with your core. And check in with your ribs. And check in with your glutes. Make sure that they're working. Sometimes I'll think about pulling my knees from my butt muscles. I don't know if that visual helps anybody, because it can be easy for the front of our legs or our thigh muscles to really overtake this, which can be annoying. Let's do about 5 more. But if you had enough and you need to stop, you absolutely may. Last one. I may have miscounted, and that's fine. And then we're going to go ahead and slide this guy off. All right, set that band to the side. Just leave it in a heap, doesn't matter. And next we're going to get into our marches. So this is going to be building off that core thing that we did. So step 1, we're going to find that nice core position. You're going to tuck your ribs down, scoop your tailbone under you just a tiny bit to get those abdominal muscles bracing. Put your hands on your stomach, feel them work. And then we're going to see if we can move our legs while not losing our abdominal brace. So you're going to keep that bracing. And then you're going to lift one foot up just a little bit and then put it back down. And other foot comes up just a little bit and then come back down. And keep on going. And don't release your brace in between. It can be really appealing to do one side and then flop and then do the other side, and we're just hanging out, and that's not really very helpful. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we're spending our time in the right place. So brace, lift, brace, lift. And if this isn't really working for you and you're losing that brace or you're just having a day, don't worry about picking your foot all the way up. All you need to do is get a little bit of weight off this leg while keeping that core tight. So that might mean that you go onto your toes, or maybe even you go onto your heels. This whole time that I'm talking, please keep practicing. And if you've had enough, you can come out of this. Otherwise, we'll keep going for a few more seconds. And let's be here for 3, 2, and 1. Lovely. You can release that, flop for a second, shake your hands out if you're feeling a little overwhelmed. Next, you're going to take your block. Your block is going to go whichever orientation works for you, but I prefer the narrowest one in between your knees. And then we're going to try and turn on those inner thighs here. So you're going to think about using your inner thighs to draw your knees into the block. Instead of thinking about squeezing the block, because then we tend to push from the outsides of our legs, we're going to squeeze and release. Inner thighs, draw your knees into the block and release. Again, drawing in. And take your time. Check in with your positioning of your core. So if you're flared out again, tuck those ribs down, scoop that tailbone underneath. We're not so much concerned with judging what our body's doing, but more just noticing it and trying to tune into it. Let's do a few more. And let's go 3 and 2 and 1. And then release. You're going to take that block. It's going to go to the side. And then we're going to move into our second to last thing, which is going to be bridges. Now, bridges are very straightforward, yet sometimes extremely hard to coordinate. And we want to think about getting our glutes working like when we were clamshelling and squeezing before. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with that core positioning. Tuck your ribs down, scoop your tailbone underneath you, start with that braced core, then think squeeze your butt, elevator lift up toward the ceiling, hold, calm back down. Again, brace your core, lifting up, hold, and then coming back down. And then squeeze and lift and keep on going like that. If you're having a hard time connecting to your glutes and if you're feeling anything like your quads or the front of your legs, the back of your legs, or your low back, you can try taking your hands over your head and pushing up against a wall or something like that so that you can push into the right muscles a little bit more. Sometimes that really, really helps. So if you need to relocate to try that, you can do that now. And if you're not doing that, your hands can be wherever is comfortable. And if you're thinking, wow, this is really boring, it totally is, and that's totally fine because it kind of sucks. But it is really important to be able to build a strong and stable foundation so that, especially when you have hypermobility, so that when you move into things that are actually interesting, like doing things that are fun or weight training and things that are just overall a lot more awesome than trying to feel all your little teeny tiny muscles working, you actually have a really strong base to build off of, because our goal here isn't to spend a lot of time doing soft rehab things and stay here forever, but it's to get our muscles, all the little stabilizer muscles that keep our joints safe, really working and knowing what job they're supposed to be doing and when. Let's do 2 more. And this is a continual practice. And if you're not totally there yet, don't worry about it. It'll happen. You just have to keep practicing. All right, final thing. You're going to need your blanket, towel, et al. And then you're going to nice and gently roll over to lay on your back, on your stomach, the opposite of your back. That was what we were just doing. You're going to take this guy and put it underneath your hips and your stomach. You can stack your hands and put your forehead on your hands. I prefer that because I don't want to have your head going to the side. You're going to stack. And then we're going to think about that same bracing. So first, we're just going to brace into that pillow and release. We're going to think tense our abs, tuck in our front body into the pillow and release. Tuck your front body. As you do that, try and squeeze your back body and release. We're going to do that a few more times. And then similar to the marches that we were doing on the other side, now we're going to be extending our leg back behind us. So instead of lifting, we're now pushing away. So from here, I want you to brace into the pillow. That's going to be key number one. And then I want you to lift your leg up just a little bit and then set it back down. Other leg's going to lift up, keep that brace, and set it back down. Keep going like that, and keep this lift real small, 10 degrees, a couple inches off the ground. It can be really tempting to feel like we have to kick super high in order to get something out of this. Actually, we do not. Technically, if we kick really, and keep on kicking while I talk, if we are kicking really high, we're usually getting into more the end ranges of our joints. It's not super useful, and it's not strengthening what we're trying to strengthen right now. So keep this movement pretty small and just think about really connecting with your glutes or your butt muscle as you lift that foot. If the kicking is starting to wear you out, or if it's just not really agreeing with you, you can just stick with that tuck and brace thing that we're doing, and that is totally fine as well. Let's do a few more. And we're here for 3, 2, 1. Very nice. Take a second here. Take a deep breath, check in and see how your body feels. And then let's go ahead and push ourselves to the side. You can do fetal position, coming on up to sit. So hopefully that wasn't too horrendously boring, and hopefully you feel a little bit better after than when you started. As always, let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you soon.